All right, under further reviews, back at you, Steve, Joe, Mike here. We have a good one today. I like saying that a lot, but another good interview. Jaylin Noel, he's getting ready for the draft. He's looking like a day two player. Really had an awesome NFL combine. Had an awesome senior week, actually. I know we were talking a little bit about that, the Reese's senior week that they say. By the way, how do you guys say Reese's?
Reese's.
There we
Reese's.
go.
Oh, you piece of garbage.
We have to keep him off the podcast, I think.
Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces.
Are you from the Midwest or something?
Oh, yeah. Go Packers.
Hockey. We got to get back into the hockey talk. We did it for the Four Nations and then just cut it off altogether. But I wanted to start with basketball. I know 2 straight weeks, surprising. But there's something that I sent Mike a few times, or I sent you 2 messages, and we'll talk about those 2 messages eventually. But I wanted to kind of talk about the Luka trade again, but kind of go into it from a Mavericks perspective now that we've seen everything unfold. So Kyrie Irving had a pretty brutal injury. Did you see how he was laying on the court at first? It was kind of like a dolphin out of water or something, just like stiff on the beach. But he was in a lot of pain. I give him props because he shot his free throws afterwards.
Certain dolphins hunt on land.
And there's actually, fun fact, I was reading an Asbury Park Press article today, and there was a dolphin in a mudded area, and somebody was walking their dog and saw the dolphin there. Imagine walking your dog and just seeing a dolphin stuck in mud. That's just not a sight.
Is it still a $10,000 fine to tap your boat near one?
Oh my Lord! It's funny you bring that up. I thought about that the other day.
That had to be made up.
It was not made up.
I can understand if you touch it or you run it
young,
over with your propeller.
And we were stupid. That $10,000 fine had us written all over it.
Yeah, we lucked out.
How does a high school pay off $10,000?
What was that?
How does a high school kid even pay off $10,000?
We
Parents.
probably wouldn't.
Just
I'd get sent to a correctional camp to work it off. Your parents might help. Mine would use it as a character building exercise.
They actually are still trying to send you to a correctional, an attitude correction camp.
At a certain point, there's just no correcting.
They do have adult versions of that. So
don't. You better hope his parents don't listen to this.
I'm going to be reaching out to the Dugans to let them know that their son might need this.
Don't dox me, dude. Even though my name's right at the bottom.
Joseph M.
my middle initial, and I spelled it out at the bottom just to make sure people know.
His middle name. He wants people to find him.
He 100% does.
I should put my address and my social security.
I was about to say, and put a couple credit card numbers there too while you're at it.
Oh yeah,
it's a checking account.
If you want to earn me some Amazon Prime points, I'll pay for it.
I don't think they're going to be earning you anything. I think they're going to be taken away.
Still to this day, I am proud to say this, and I know this has nothing to do with sports, but this podcast needs to hear it. I've yet to order my own item off of Amazon. I've yet to make a purchase on Amazon.
Really? I don't know if that's an accomplishment, though, because Amazon.
I think it is. I've literally gone my whole life and never made a purchase on Amazon. Now, my wife has ordered things for me on Amazon, and my mother, but I personally have never gone out of my way to order something on Amazon ever in my life.
That's like still owning a flip phone.
Yeah,
that is.
You should.
That's nuts.
Every time you want something, you have to track someone down and say, "Hey, can you order this for me?"
No, I'm an eBay guy, or
Kohl's.com.
Go to the store and buy it, or I just send my wife a text and say, "Hey, I need this," and whatever she does at that point, she does.
I think Mike goes to those gold stores where you can exchange your checks for
a check cashing.
Yeah, check cashing.
Don't judge me.
Everything
I do, I just operate in strict cash. That's it.
Hey, you're different than everyone these days.
In my
your life savings under your mattress?
It's actually in the mattress. The mattress is my life savings.
That's a worse form of doxing. Now everyone knows where your money is. All your eBay earnings.
Listen, I can't say this on the podcast. Anybody that's listening to this and coincidentally finds my house, do not come to my house. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in a back down state, and I'll leave it at that.
That's a fair request.
New Jersey considered that?
I am a ask for forgiveness later state.
You're a proud
Self-defense.
American. That's
I
what you
call it
are.
self-defense.
I am a proud American. I believe in all the amendments.
America.
America.
All right, so basketball talk. Karate. Karate. But
Speaking of shooting,
yeah, play on words, no pun intended. Yeah, so the Kyrie injury looked pretty bad. He did shoot his free throws. It looked like he had some tears in his eyes. It was hard to watch. And that kind of confirmed to me that he was actually playing for something this season. So true competitor. Um, I know I like to bring this up, but he does have the controversial pass. But I really think ever since he came to the Mavericks, he's really became a likable guy. Last season during the playoff run, he said all the right things. He was actually considered a leader on that Mavericks team. And then this season, they trade Luka, and I think most stars they like to have one or two other guys alongside of them. That's what the NBA has really turned into these days. But he didn't really make a big stink out of it. He just went on the court and did his job even after the Anthony Davis injury, which now we're getting reports that Anthony Davis's camp might shut it down for the season. So it just looks bad all around. My question more is, and I think actually this was one of the messages I sent to you, Mike, on Instagram, but does this get salvaged if they get Cooper Flagg next season? If they somehow land in that first pick in the lottery and they get Cooper Flagg, and now next season, hopefully you're keeping your fingers crossed, and there's a healthy Kyrie, there's a healthy Anthony Davis, and you would think that Flagg, the way that he's playing at Duke and just his ability, and if you watch him drive into the hoop, his shooting abilities, like he just seems like the complete package. Like it could translate over to the NBA. So now, like if you have a star in Flagg, like all of a sudden you have a big three. So like, does that change the tides a little bit for you, or are you just saying blow up the ship, get rid of everybody? This was the worst trade ever. It still is.
Yeah, I don't think there's any salvaging this. I don't think there's a silver lining in this. They didn't make the trade with the intention of going after Cooper Flagg. They made the trade because they thought they could still compete. I was wrong about the trade from the beginning. I thought it was, I didn't look at it favorably either way. Yeah, I was wrong. Luka's completely changed the Lakers, and they got a motivated Luka too. So it's like a whole different thing. But no, I think there's no way. I think you could, and I hate to say it, I don't think you could bring back the front office or the coach. I think it's got to get blown up. And if you get Cooper Flagg, then hopefully it attracts a big time GM and a big time head coach for you to rebuild off of. But this is a complete disaster. I don't know any other way this could be spun. Especially because having an ACL tear where he did now in April, I mean, that means he's probably not going to be back the first beginning of the season. So I don't know. I don't think there's a positive way to spin this at all. I think that it's got to blow up. It's got to go.
Poor Jason Kidd getting coupled into this. He didn't even know that trade was going to happen, and that now his job's on the line.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's usually not just one guy. You're not going to. Traditionally, you wouldn't hire a GM around your head coach. The NBA is a little bit different, but yeah, I don't see anybody getting out of this one.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, especially what Luke has been doing. Their whole thing when they traded him was the conditioning, and I guess they did have it seemed like Luka may have been maybe partying a little bit too much, but it looked like they were trying to send him through conditioning tests, and he either wasn't doing it or he wasn't getting the results that they wanted, and they were a little concerned about that, and like maybe injuries were going to appear eventually, or he was just going to fade out eventually. But when he got off that plane in Los Angeles, and you saw what Luka looked like right now, like his skinny self he is right now, it was like you knew what the script was going to be, that he was going to go to the Lakers. He was going to take it head on, and he was going to dominate, and that's what he's been doing. And it seems like it's pumped some life into LeBron James. Not that he needed it. I mean, that's the best player of all time, or up there, top two, I should say. I'm a big Michael Jordan guy, but top two definitely. And people make the argument for him being the best player of all time. He just hit 50,000 points in his career, which is freaking crazy that he did that. So, I mean, when you have two of those type of players that you can easily make a march to the NBA Finals, look what Luka did kind of by himself last year. I know he had Kyrie, but Kyrie was inconsistent during the playoffs, if you remember. I know I talked about like what his maturity was in the playoffs, but he didn't show up every night playing wise. It was very much a Luka show. Joe, what's your thoughts on the whole like what the Mavericks can become? What do you think their direction should be?
I'd give Kyrie a little more credit for the playoffs last year. I mean, the finals and certain games of the conference finals, but he was almost as important as Luka those first 2 rounds at the very least. And as a fan of the NBA and as somebody who's fully switched into basketball mode, I was sort of looking forward to seeing what would happen with Dallas this season. I thought it was a very big possibility they would play the Lakers in the first round. I mean, let's not forget Anthony Davis. He's not probably the third best player in the world that Luka is, but he's top 10 still for however long it's going to last. It was just a shitty decision long term. And I just thought, Kyrie and Anthony Davis, I mean, just, gut reaction, that's a perfect fit. I mean, they would be able to play off each other's strengths. And considering the supporting cast they have, I thought that they easily could have been the second round team. I thought that at their best, they definitely could beat Memphis. They definitely could beat Houston. And now we won't know. And even to a lesser extent, I was kind of looking forward to see how Kyrie Irving, like you said, he's sort of taken on more of a leadership role. And, would he embrace sort of being like the lone savior left in Dallas for this year? And now, unfortunately for Dallas, they're in the worst possible spot you could be in, notwithstanding the worst trade ever. Now you're borderline lottery team, which is not where you want to be. I mean, even if they have a chance at Cooper Flagg, I mean, they're probably going to end up at worst at like 35 wins. They're lucky if they have like a 2% chance of getting them, which isn't, we've seen more unlikely teams win the lottery, but it's very slim. And now, I think we're at a point where you can't really blame Anthony Davis's camp for shutting it down. I mean, with the NBA, you want to be a top 4 seed. You want to be maybe at the very least a 6th seed in a very competitive conference, but you don't want to be the 10th seed sort of fighting with a bunch of role players to get in. So, Dallas fans were walking out last night. I mean, not only can you not blame them, but it's probably the worst the fan base has felt, all year for any team.
The slap in the face is the news came out the same week that Kyrie gets injured that they're also raising ticket prices. Like apparently,
why not at this point? I like that. That's just spiteful.
It is. Like, what is going on with that organization? It's like they want to push fans away, and that's not always how it was. I mean, I remember Mark Cuban when he was majority owner. That was a well-ran organization. Everybody, Dallas fans flocked to the Mavericks. They were always kind of like the underdog, with Derek. He was a likable guy leading the way, and then it felt like that we were going to kind of get chapter 2 with Luka going there. And you had a superstar who wanted to be with the team long term, and he has publicly gone out there and said that. I don't know if it's easier to say it once you're on the Lakers and your contract talks aren't going to be with your previous team anymore, most likely. But I mean, he's said that he loved the Dallas city, and for what it's worth, he's on record saying that he wanted to be there long term. So we'll take it, but.
I mean, he also took a huge pay cut with that trade too. So I'd imagine, yeah, you're right. He probably wouldn't. It's easy to say it, but I mean, the Mavs cost him a ton of money.
100 mil, right? Around 100 mil.
I think it was more than that.
Yeah, over 100 mil. Which, I mean, these guys are all rich, but that's a lot of money out of your wallet right there, just because. I feel like they were being a little spiteful and wanted to do things their way instead of thinking about what's best for the future and the fans and how they would react. And honestly, like any knowledgeable owner, like we're 3 guys just with a sports podcast, and we can sit here and say trading a top 3 player is probably never the best move, regardless of what their conditioning is, regardless of if they started the season on the injury list this year. Let's just take it from last season, what he did in the playoffs. And I know, Joe, you talked about the first 2 rounds with Kyrie, but the reason I'm talking about his inconsistency is because you did mention it. The conference championship, the NBA finals, he was inconsistent. And that's what sits with me, that lasting impact, that last thing that he did for them. So, I mean,
you can't rely on him to be your best guy, or you're not going to go anywhere. But he's about as good of a number 2 option as there is.
At this point, like, that's the truth, though, because, like, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, He he left the Cavs when they were kind of in their prime, where they just won an NBA Finals, and he wanted to say, "I want to be the guy." He went to the Celtics. He couldn't get over that hump on the Celtics, and then he signs this huge contract with Kevin Durant with the Nets, and they couldn't. They had terrible chemistry in the playoffs.
No, I will definitely push back on that. I think in 2021 in those playoffs, that was one of the best teams I've ever seen, and they all got hurt. I mean, when Milwaukee won the title that year, the guys on TNT were saying the series is over. They blew Milwaukee out of the building by 40, and then I think the last healthy game KD and Kyrie played together, they won by like 28. Like they were the class of the NBA if all three of them were healthy, and because like James Harden, I think was finally starting to like just take a back seat to Durant and Irving and just acting as like a pure point guard. They kind of remind me of the Warriors in that you needed to score like over 120 to beat that team. Obviously the chemistry wasn't great long term, but in those playoffs, I thought if they stayed healthy, not only would they won the title, I think they probably wouldn't have lost like 3 games, like all playoffs.
That was the story. I mean, the Knicks were ready to give all those guys the money that they wanted, and for whatever reason, they decided to go to Brooklyn. But in the back of your mind, you always did think about the injuries. I mean, it's been a little bit worse later. I mean, Durant's injury I feel like came on more when he was on the Nets and went to the Suns. But it's just unfortunate what happened with that contract. I want to pivot to one other team. The Warriors have been the class of the league for a while now. I know recent memory that they've had early exits from the playoffs, but they've also been playing a little bit of better basketball ever since Jimmy Butler came over. And when he was with the Heat, it was tough to watch how that his time with the Heat ended. I mean, they just kept suspending him until they traded him, and he was walking out of practice, and he was clearly during press conferences saying that he was not pleased with that organization anymore, and he wanted out of there. And I think the Heat, after a while, were like, we're done with Jimmy Butler. we can't repair this relationship. So they traded him, and he went to the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors have looked a lot better. It's been a fun little project over there with Steph Curry, who's at the tail end of his career, who's still playing pretty solid basketball. You bring in Jimmy Butler, you still have Draymond Green, who's still putting up, I feel like, similar to his usual numbers, because he was never a big scorer, but he got you rebounds and assists. So, what are your thoughts on the Warriors, and what's the ceiling for that team?
Has Steph Curry ever lost in the Garden?
It doesn't feel like it.
I feel like even when in their off years, we never could. And I know we've only been good recently, but,
Knicks were without Cat, though. And for whatever reason, they haven't dropped the report yet. They're just saying that he's away from the team, but apparently he's going to be out like the next 5 games.
They actually they just had something. I think they said that he is available to play. Like if they need him, he'll play. Like he could be there to play.
But they said it wasn't an injury, though, right?
I mean, it could be anything. I mean, it could death in the family. Who knows? I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the Warriors. I think they're one of those teams where I truthfully don't feel like seeding matters for them. Just get in and play, and what's going to happen is going to happen. Let them fall. Honestly, the West is really tough. I don't think they match up well against the Thunder. I don't think there's really anybody that matches up well against the Thunder. I could see them. I think for me, the ceiling for them is probably the Western Conference Finals, and that's probably the extent of it. I don't think that they can get through Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City for me is probably coming out of the West, in my opinion, and I don't think the Warriors can get through them. I think that team is so well balanced. So yeah, I think their ceiling, which is conference finals, is a pretty good ceiling, I think. But obviously they play for championships. So, but yeah, I'd probably say the finals is my conference finals is my ceiling for them.
Yeah, it feels
I don't know why I'm not more into the Thunder. I feel like I should be. There's just nothing about them I'm like excited about. And I know like Jaylin Williams had like 41 the other night. Like that guy's fucking ridiculous.
Underrated.
Very. Shai Gilgeous had like a 50 and 10, I think, last night.
Mm-hmm. He's
I don't
an
know.
amazing
There's
player.
just something about Oklahoma City. Maybe
you just
but I
don't like
enjoyed
Oklahoma City.
Kevin Durant and Westbrook on him. I don't know.
You don't like Oklahoma City, like the city itself. What about it?
He's against it.
I don't know. It just doesn't pop.
It's all those
It-
damn tornadoes.
I was
It's not like Cam Ward's release. It just doesn't pop off the screen to me.
Oh, there you go.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm big on
Full
the
circle.
Nuggets to get back into the finals.
I'd be way more excited for that.
Also, like, who's stopping this amazing story with the Lakers? You know, it just feels like after that trade, they're just going to keep rolling.
That's true.
Also, I just read a headline from ESPN that was right in front of my face. Curry improves to 12-1 at the Garden, so he has one loss in his career at MSG.
That's way worse than I thought.
What
Yeah.
it was just undefeated?
Yeah,
It feels
I
that
can't-
way. I mean,
maybe 2020, but I think he was out for most of that year. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I just keep remembering like the first huge game he had when he dropped like 54 on us. And that was before. I don't even think he made like a All-Star game yet. It was like, oh, Davidson, Steph Curry showed up tonight, and that's when we were good.
Well, look at some of the rosters the Knicks were putting out when he was in the finals every year.
Yeah,
Those were some really bad teams, like G League status guys. So
yeah. It reminds me of growing up whenever the Lakers or the Cavaliers would come to the Garden. You know, you'd more watch for the other team than, you know, hoping that Jamal Crawford would pull out a 40-piece or something.
yeah. Do you remember when Lance Thomas was the captain of the Knicks?
that was really good.
I'd
Those are the
follow him
dark
to hell and
days.
back.
I don't know why that just popped in my head, but it was like the Lance Thomas, man. That's all I got to say about those Knicks days is Lance Thomas. And you know the sad thing is, over the year, the Knicks had very good talent. It just never meshed well at the. This is becoming a Knick talk. It never meshed well at the right time. You know, like if you think about, you know, Jamal Crawford, you had come through there, Wilson Chandler. What was I'm missing?
Yeah, Al Harrington, I agree.
Zach Randolph.
Yeah, the year before he became good.
Yeah, they over their bad years, they had talent. It just never panned out. Now, I don't know if the talent they had was the right talent for the Knicks, because a lot of those guys had their own agendas. But it's just unfortunate. Unfortunate that's what you know. That's what we did. Eddie Curry. Who doesn't remember Eddie Curry? 452-pound Eddie Curry.
Bulls player, right?
Yeah, we traded. They gave up a ton to get him too. And what was the guy from the Warriors, the power forward, we gave up a ton to get? Anthony something.
Ooh.
No, Al Harrington.
No, there was Anthony something. There was a guy. He was young, super athletic. I can't remember his name, but yeah, we gave up a ton to get him too. The Knicks were just a poorly run organization, which makes it even more interesting now if you think about it, how they've turned it around. You know, like
you got to watch Danilo Gallinari jab step to 17
I was
a game.
so upset when they traded him.
That was probably the highlight of that run.
The first and second time.
I was so surprised how long he made it in the NBA, though. I didn't think he was going to last that long.
He wasn't a bad player. He was one of those guys who, like, out of nowhere, he'd rip off like a 40-point game for you, and you just wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, okay. You know, but yeah, it's just the turnaround the Knicks have made has been incredible, and I don't know if it's just James Dolan learned, or he just has the right people in place. So,
right people in place.
Gives me hope as a Jets fan that we're going to figure it out one day. A blind squirrel will find its nut.
Knock on wood for you. I don't know.
Yeah, let's not take for granted, even though I don't think we're going to make the conference finals, just, you know, being relevant.
Yeah.
I remember like if we were within 4 games of the 8 seed in like February.
It was exciting.
I'd be super excited, and then Jared Jack would have a 35-point game and rip our hearts out.
Jack.
He fucking killed us.
What didn't we have him for a year too?
We had everybody.
Yeah, everyone's
probably when we had Pablo Prigioni.
Yeah, he was
Smalls.
He was amazing, and he had the most. It was the most outdated skill set, and he was still productive. He was like 42 when he got here, and he still backed down from the 3-point line to the opposing point guard. It was incredible.
He played like Mark Price. It was fantastic.
He was something special.
I want to say people knocked us for our drafting during that time too, but the Porzingis draft turned out to be a very good one.
Listen, we had. You remember that was that the year we took Landry Fields also?
I don't know. I'd have to look
He
that
might
up.
have he might have been before that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he was because he was that was the first pick we had that year, and it was a second round pick. But Landry Fields was a good player for the Knicks too. So it's you know how it goes. But anyway,
Yeah,
I digress.
Fields reminded me of who's on the Sixers now. That was Quentin Grimes.
Maxey?
He reminded me of a
Oh, Quentin
Grimes type
Grimes.
player.
Quentin Grimes, yeah, it's a comparable person. They have very similar skill sets.
Yeah. But any other notes from the NBA that we want to talk about, or should we kick it over to the interview?
Get well soon, Wemby. We miss you.
Yeah, blood clot, nothing to mess around about. Seriously though,
Yeah,
star player could also, actually that's what I want to talk about. One last thing for the NBA, uh, LeBron. LeBron's been talking about how he only has a few years left, and who knows what his status is now that Luka's on the team and he's having fun again and they're winning. But when LeBron's gone, when Steph's gone, who's going to be the face of this league? Because like I've heard people throw out like Anthony Edwards, but Edwards hasn't won anything yet. So can he truly be the face of the NBA?
they're
Like,
going to try their hardest. They're going to try their hardest to make him the face of the NBA.
but who's like even in that talk? Is it SGA? I guess we could give it to Jokic.
Jokic, it's
Uh,
probably him or Luka, I would think.
Yeah, Luka. But again, Luka made it to the finals, but lost. Uh, Jokic is a good one, but he's a little quiet, right? Like he's not like the typical
Yeah,
star.
he's the kind of guy that I don't think he wants the fame or the glory or anything like that. Like he said it, in interviews. Basketball's a job, and so I don't look at a guy like that.
Hey,
as
he's
a
like
face.
Curtis Martin. He doesn't even like playing.
Well, if you played for the Jets, you wouldn't like playing either.
Even then,
Fair enough.
Even then, that was what he knew early on that Woody Johnson wasn't the guy. Yeah, I don't know. I think that for you to be the face of the NBA, it's got to be somebody that is the NBA, right? Like they live, breathe it. And Jokic, one of the best to do it. He's one of the best today. Going to probably one of the best all time. But he doesn't. Like you said, he's not that kind of guy that wants it. I think somebody's going to fall in love with the climb for one of these players, whether it be Luka chasing a championship or Anthony Edwards, and we're going to fall in love with that player, and he's going to become the face of the NBA. So I don't know.
What are you laughing at?
when he said I'm not that, he's not that kind of guy. It made me think of I'm not that type of girl.
No, we leave that off. Come on.
You were laughing for a while on that.
It just hit my head. But question.
I thought you were laughing at the prospect of Anthony Edwards being the face of the league. Like I know the Wolves are bad this year.
Question though, Celtics.
Shai Gilgeous and Tatum have no pizzazz.
I was gonna say
it's got to be somebody that's like if John Morant can get it together.
Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
feel like he was on track.
If we could just get him away from his amendments, we'd be all right.
But if the Celtics win again this
that's
year,
why I like him. He's an American.
He's really American. He's really American.
But if the Celtics win again this year, does Tatum have even a conversation for it?
He's so boring.
Yeah.
He is such a boring person. Like I just no, I don't think so. To me, he's like he has no personality. I don't know. He's just like you just said that Shai Gilgeous doesn't do it for you.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum don't do it for me either. Like there's nothing there. It's like looking at a piece of styrofoam.
Well, the reality of it is, NFL.
Where's like a Gilbert Arenas kind of guy?
Yeah, somebody that's not
somebody
afraid to
who
bring
would
a gun
actually
in
have
the
a
locker room.
podcast that you would listen to.
Somebody that's not afraid
they
to
don't
have a gun in
exist.
the locker room.
I would
John Morant.
like a Tracy McGrady would have been a cool face of the NBA.
Yeah.
I played at his high school's field, baseball field, and it's called the Tracy McGrady field. But
if Halliburton can get at Indiana, he talks a lot of shit.
no, I will refuse to watch the NBA if we make Halliburton the face of the NBA. Can't stand him.
Miles Turner.
What about Grady Dick?
Grady Dick.
I hear he is in his own way.
Did he just get hurt? I saw like some news coming from him.
I don't know, but my favorite thing is when him and Tarek Black did the jersey swap. That was probably my favorite thing in life.
Yeah, there's probably about 30 guys in the NBA you could do a elite jersey swap with.
I
And
get it.
he did it. And
I
he
didn't
did it.
put it together at first. Now I get it.
Oh.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, like Derek White. He's probably down with Derek White, right?
all right. So the reality is, though, in my opinion, so obviously the NFL times a million trumps everything. It's the sport in America, and I don't know if anything's ever catching it again. But my thing is, the NBA feels like it's on a crash course towards what the MLB became. Uh, now that like a guy like LeBron's leaving, Steph Curry's leaving, you're starting to see those stars that really pumped up the jersey purchases and brought people to the televisions to watch, and just was everything that was pretty much right about the NBA. I mean, whatever you want to say about LeBron James, he never started any drama. Like he was never any legal attention towards him. He seems to be a good family guy. Same thing I think you could say about Steph Curry, just like a mild mannered guy. But like the MLB in the '90s, like especially the late '90s, that was like primetime TV right there. The race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and the home runs, and you had awesome guys like Randy Johnson as a pitcher. The guys with the Braves were fun, Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine. And you had guys like Vlad
Chuck
Guerrero.
Knobloch.
Chuck Knobloch hit an old woman in what, like the second row. Um,
Why'd you just leave John Smoltz off that list? Or you have something against John Smoltz?
it's announcing.
Too few syllables in his name.
He just
didn't
doesn't
line up.
like him. He just doesn't like him.
I don't like the Braves. John, I might as well throw John Rocker on that list.
Great guy.
He's like what you strive to be as a citizen of the United States.
Me specifically, or just in general?
No, John Rocker, model citizen, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
He is.
There's another
Yes.
American.
True proud American, MAGA.
All right, so let's get it over to, because we're at like the 31-minute mark. Let's get it over to the interview. Jaylin Noel out of Iowa State. He's a wide receiver. He's making some noise in some of these pre-draft, the combine and senior week, and he was awesome during the college season. Had 80 catches this year with Rocco Brett throwing towards him, and he had Brock Purdy his first season, so he had some good quarterbacks. But yeah, it was a good interview, so I'm going to kick it over there. I'm really excited to bring in Jaylin Noel. He's out of Iowa State, getting ready for the NFL draft. Had a really awesome combine, so I'm excited to talk about the process leading up to the draft, your college career, everything in between. But Jaylin, let's start with that combine, because I actually want to pull up the numbers. I was looking at like all the analytics and stuff. I don't know if you pay much attention to that, but you received a score of 80, which is really awesome at the combine. It says that you're going to be eventually a starter. What's your feelings leaving the combine? And it seemed like a pretty successful weekend. Are you kind of riding a high right now after all the numbers that you put up?
Well, no, because I still have pro day. I'm always trying to get better and prepare for what's coming next. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to perform the way I did, and I trained that way. So I was expecting those numbers. But for me, it's always just what can I do next to get better. So I'm not really riding a high there. I'm just looking forward to the next opportunity, continuing to put my name out there and make NFL teams want to come get me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you definitely are on the radar. If you weren't before, you definitely are now. But I saw there was a few teams that there's going to be pre-draft meetings with. But I kind of want to go into the wide receiver class, because it's obvious, from 20 years ago, this is a much different game where, it was probably more of a running back centered game back in the day. You had the guys like LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, guys like that were like center of attention, Curtis Martin, all those good guys. But now it's like, I feel like the receivers really get the attention now. I feel like when you think about offense, if it's successful, it's behind the passing game. That's also led to what the draft has become. It feels like the draft, the wide receiver class gets deeper and deeper every year. And it just is stacked with talent, especially this year. What do you feel like you bring to the table for organizations specifically? And what does, in your opinion, a receiver have to do to kind of separate themselves from the others?
Yes, I think a lot of it comes from just the off the field character and mindset. Obviously, if you have good character and you have people that speak highly of you in that aspect of things, then that stands out to teams because that shows teams that they can trust you and you'll be a guy that's going to be consistent and reliable at the next level. And then, really just if you, I feel like you watch my film and then put the numbers that I put with the combine and you compare those two things that they're relatable. You see that the explosiveness within my route running, just separation in my route running. So those small things, if you can match up the film with what you've done at the combine, then that sticks out to teams. Um, so yeah, I feel like what separates me most from other receivers in this class is really just my competitive nature. I feel like I'm a very competitive person that wants to win at all costs. So going out on the field every time I step out on the field, I want to show the opposing team that it's going to be a long game, and I'm going to keep coming after them and just put in more work than them. So I feel like that's something that sets me apart from the other guys.
Absolutely. Great response, and you're definitely a competitor. You kind of have to be, I feel like, especially after, you finish your senior year and then it's like right at it. Like after the bowl game, it's time to compete again. It's time to start preparing for the draft process. Such a quick turnaround. Is there anything that you've specifically been focusing on during these past few months since the college season ended up until this combine weekend?
Yeah, I would say just keeping my footwork clean, continuing to work on my hands at the line of scrimmage. I feel like I have good hands at the line of scrimmage, getting guys off me, but feel like I can continue to work on that and make it even better, especially with me being um, not necessarily the biggest guy on the field. I got to be able to use my hands, be able to get lengthier defenders off me so I can win quick at the line of scrimmage. So continuing to work on that, always working at the catch point, and just keeping my the top of my routes clean. Just be able to create separation. This is a big part of the game as a receiver, especially in the NFL, because separation is hard to come by. So if you can continue to work on those small things, then I feel like it allows you to be consistent.
Where do you personally see yourself? Do you see yourself as more at the NFL level, like a slot guy, or can you see yourself lining up against like some of the best guys, the best corners on the outside?
Oh yeah, I feel like I can match up against anybody. I have the confidence and obviously the athletic abilities and just the IQ of the game to be able to do that. I feel like I'll see myself as a Z within the NFL, being able to play in the slot and on the outside, kind of moving around the field a little bit. So I feel like I can do both. I'm comfortable with both and feel like I put that on display at the Senior Bowl. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely it's been on display. You talked about the Senior Bowl, the great combine, and hopefully, the pro day continues it. But something else that I feel like separates you is you have the ability to return kickoffs. Um, I guess I have a two-part question on that. So in 2024, obviously the NFL switched their kickoff the way, it's a little different than the traditional one, the one that college still does. Do you feel like this helps you as a returner? And what do you think or do you think, I should say, do you think there will be a learning curve from college to this new style of kickoffs?
Yeah, obviously it's different, and I think it'll be something that I'll have to fill out once I get to the next level. But as a returner, I feel like it gives you all the opportunity in the world to make a big play. Obviously, the it was made this way for a reason to give these returners more opportunity to find seams and um, just make the most out of something. So I feel like at the next level, it's going to be something that allows me to get on the field as quick as possible, being able to be utilized as a returner, not only kick return but punt return too. But now I'm excited to be able to play on that style of kickoff return and see where it goes.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see you on Sundays, whether it's receiver or kick returner. But I did see in the news, and this, hopefully I can talk about this, but this is like public knowledge, I guess, from Google searches that it looks like you have pre-draft visits coming up. I saw there was definitely one with the Steelers. Um, I guess my question is, outside of the what you physically can do, which has been on display since the college season, but even like the combine and everything else. But um, what have your thoughts been? Because I know at the combine, correct me if I'm wrong, you get the opportunity to sit down with some coaches during the combine, but also during these pre-draft visits. And
Yeah.
I know sometimes they can be known as long interviews that I don't want to call them rough, but they're definitely trying to test your knowledge and test your character and see who you truly are. What have your thoughts been on that whole process, that side, outside of just like physically getting into shape?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's one of my strong suits of my game, just knowing the game in general, high IQ of the game. And like you said, when I do sit down with these teams, they're just picking my brain, seeing what I do know. And I look forward to those meetings because I feel like me being able to show off my IQ of the game and understanding at the receiver position is another thing that sets me apart from other guys. So when I do have those meetings, they're fun to me. I don't find them long just because I enjoy talking ball and it's something that I look forward to.
Yeah, a love for the game, and you've been putting in the work since probably your high school days, but even freshman year, you get to Iowa State and you're thrusted right into the lineup. I believe you had like 39 catches during your first year with Iowa State. What was it like being able to play so early on in your college career?
Yeah, so I was a mid-year, so I graduated high school early and was able to get up there for spring ball, which I feel like that definitely contributed to my early success, being able to know the playbook going into fall camp. So it was different, obviously, the speed of the game going from high school to college, and being somebody that they relied on to make plays on Saturdays. But I thought it was very cool. My very first catch in college was actually a choice route, so I had a decision to make and had to read coverage early on. So they threw me in the fire, but they did that because they knew what I was capable of and what I had showed in the off season, putting that work in. But it was very cool being able to get out there as a true freshman and be a returner my first year, and then slowly as the season went on, about halfway through, got a lot more reps at receiver. So. It was something that was very cool.
Yeah, you have to have knowledge for those choice routes. I know, just listening to Travis Kelce's podcast, New Heights, he sometimes jokes and says Pat Mahomes is like, "What are you doing on some of those choice routes?" But
Mhm.
yeah, you also have that connection with the quarterbacks. You've been lucky where you had two very good quarterbacks during your college career. You got to play with Brock Purdy during that freshman season, but also Rocco Becht. He's really making a name for himself, and he's looking like somebody who's going to be in a similar position as yourself, getting ready for the draft soon. What makes the two of them so special, in your opinion?
They're very high level competitors. They they're very similar actually in just their will to want to win. And you've seen that in this past season with Rocco, him leading some game winning drives multiple times, maybe three or four times. And you don't see that much from sophomore quarterbacks. And
Yeah.
he was able to do it with poise. So just his ability to be a competitor, be poised, be a good leader. He really stepped up in that department. Like with Brock, when I first got to Iowa State, he was we actually have big brother, little brother programs where you just basically pair up with the older guy, and he was my big brother when I got to Iowa State. So just to see it, the way he led the team and how he conducted himself each day, being coming in, being consistent, a hard worker, it's something that inspired me to do the same. And you see that same thing with Rocco. So those two guys are very similar in the way they approach the game. And then once they get on the field, they're high level competitors with a very high knowledge and know what they're looking at when they get out there. So
Yeah, that's awesome to hear about the big brother program, but like the mentorship. But just taking on Purdy real quick, he was eventually Mr. Irrelevant, which I watched a good amount of his games during college, and I always thought he was, I'll say it, a elite level of a talent for quarterback. Um, I don't know what the disconnect was or why he dropped to the seventh round, but it happened. Were you guys like just being his teammates and knowing what he was capable of, kind of shocked that he fell that far? And this, I guess, the second part is, well, how cool was it to see like the success he had during his rookie season and onward since then?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a surprise just because we knew the type of player he was. Um, Obviously just his knowledge of the game and the stuff he did put on film and how many records that he still holds at Iowa State. It was a surprise to see him drop that far, and we felt like he should have definitely been drafted higher. But everything happens for a reason. Obviously, he's that last pick in the NFL draft, and it just gave him a bigger chip on his shoulder to go prove people wrong. So to see him have success at the level um, he is having success. He's about to get a big contract, which he deserves. It's very cool, and it inspires those Iowa State athletes, and lets them know that they can do it no matter where you end up getting drafted, what round you get drafted, that you have the ability as long as you put the work in and put your head down and you're a consistent person each day and approach the game and enjoy the game, then you can be successful. And he showed us that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you talk about putting the Iowa players on the map. I guess another two-parter is every year that, early in the season, the headline is Iowa versus Iowa State. It's a big rival game. I guess the first part is what's it like playing in that game? But the second part is there's been a good amount of Iowa players, from both Iowa and Iowa State. Again, their names called in the draft recently. What do you feel like factoring into that? Because I feel like Iowa as a whole has kind of gone under the radar for a long time, but now you're starting to see more and more names appear, not only at the college level where, both schools are having success. You guys are coming off an 11-3 record. 2 years ago, Iowa was in the Big Ten championship game. So there's obviously talent there, but I feel like it's just starting to like surface, in my opinion. Would you say I'm correct saying that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Iowa, the team out east, as we would call them, they've been a good football team for a long time, produced a lot of good players, and more recently, obviously, Iowa State has come on the scene. And speaking of that rivalry is it's very cool just to be able to play in each other's stadium. And my 4 years there, I never lost in their stadium, and they never lost in Iowa State Stadium. So it's kind of 50-50 on that matchup, but it's always a great rivalry. The fans always show up, and both two teams that very competitive and just want to win at all costs when that game um, shows up. But I feel like just of recently, Iowa's definitely been producing, or like the colleges in Iowa have definitely been producing a lot of good athletes, and I would basically say that's because of the coaching in Iowa. I feel like there's two great coaching staffs, especially Coach Campbell at Iowa State. He does a great job in not only creating men on the field but off the field as well, and building character for that team. So he's really shown us what hard work does for guys, and because there's guys that go in to Iowa State. You can even say myself, I'm a three-star athlete, not the biggest guy. And just to be able to develop over the course of 4 to 5 years is huge, especially with a coaching staff like Coach Campbell has put together. So I think the coaching is something that is starting to make players be able to be on more people's draft boards and higher on people's draft boards.
Absolutely. I mean, you answered two of my questions there because I did have a question on Matt Campbell. Always curious because he's a young coach. He's building that Iowa State team to be successful for a long time, but also with success comes other programs knocking every year. And I know last year there was some, rumors where they were like, oh, could he go somewhere? But he seems to be really into that Iowa State program, and he has a vision for the program, it seems like, and it's starting to show. But also, you responded to my three-star question because 24/7 Sports had you as a three-star recruit coming out of high school. Something they said was, you're slender and will need to bulk up some, but they did compliment your speed and your ability to track the ball, which you kind of talked about route running throughout this interview. But it seems like every year you had steady growth. We talked about the 39 catches your freshman year. You were in the 60s your sophomore and junior year, but last year was the big one, 80 catches for 1,194 yards, eight touchdowns. What do you feel like? I know Coach Campbell probably had a big say, but altogether, what do you feel like went into the increase of production every single year?
Yeah, me really just being curious within my game, trying to figure out what I can get better at each year, watching the film from past years and seeing, oh, I can be better in this aspect of my game or I can work on that. So really just me wondering what I can get better at and then just talking to my coaches and seeing what they feel like I can get better at so I can consistently work on it and put the work on the field. I feel like at receiver, you got to constantly get reps and keep your feet clean and your eye hand coordination high to be able to be a good receiver. So working on the small things each year, and then obviously confidence grows as you're going through college and you become more comfortable with your body. You kind of find yourself throughout college. So really confidence is a big thing as well. And then really your teammates believing in you. Me being a two-time captain my junior year in senior year goes a long way. And me just knowing that my teammates are relying on me, they trust me to be able to lead the team. So it puts a lot on my shoulders, but it's something that I can take, knowing that each Saturday I go out there, they're expecting me to make big plays, but also just be able to lead them and maintain good body language. So all those small factors go into just being able to consistently grow your game each year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you talked about being captain. Your last season, probably the team's most successful. 11-3 season. You end up winning your bowl game. Um, how would you recap that final season and where you're kind of leaving the program after your senior season?
Yeah, I mean, it started in the off season, just leadership sitting down and um, knowing that we would have to hold guys accountable if we wanted to be the team that we were going to be. And Coach Campbell does a great job making sure it's a player-led program and that he puts the right guys in leadership positions and the right guys that are going to say the right things. So like I said, it started in the off season, and then getting the fall camp, just the way we competed with each other. Everything was about competition because if we can compete with each other and push each other, we knew when it came to come to Saturdays, we would be able to do the same thing because it's the work that we put in and making sure that we were working even harder in the off season. So when the game time did come, it was easier and then just getting into the season. Um, Especially on the offensive side of the ball. The first drive of the season, we go two plays and score. First play is to me for 50 yards, and then Rocco throws a great fade ball to Jaden, and you score in two plays. So that just gets the momentum going, kind of telling us and the whole team what type of offense we would have and the defense coming out and getting stops. So I feel like the first game is always a big momentum booster for us. And then to go into Iowa week two, I feel like that was a game that really showed the character and resilience of our team, being able to be down 13 points at half and then coming out and um, scoring 20 points to eventually go on to beat them. It showed a lot of heart from our team and gave us all the confidence in the world to go on that 7-0 start, one of the best starts in Iowa State history. And then obviously you have that two game skid, lose to Texas Tech and then KU, and that's kind of what tests your leadership the most within a season is you've had success, you haven't lost to that point, but then you lose two in a row. kind of shows tells you what type of leadership we had to be able to bounce back from that and then eventually make the Big 12 championship, holding guys accountable, watching the film, seeing what we can get better at while we were losing those two games, and then going on to eventually make the Big 12 championship. And it was just a all around effort with all the leadership we had on that team. Um, and obviously we didn't win the Big 12 championship, and that was disappointing. But to be able to bounce back from that and then go win the 11th game against Miami was also a huge statement. And I feel like ultimately that left the program um, in a great spot, and really showed the younger guys what it takes to be successful in a program like that. Because obviously we don't have the best talent in the world, but we have the heart and the resiliency and leadership in that program to be successful. So,
Yeah, hard work beats talent any day of the week.
yeah.
And I think a fun thing I thought of during that response is, that Iowa State game and a lot of other Iowa State games. It's turned into like, if you ever look at like the betting side of things, there used to be like that joke of like, oh, well, they score more than 30 in this game. Now offense is very alive during that game. So it definitely changed from past seasons on that sense as well. But I guess my last question, during I guess the draft night, I think right now a lot of people have you on the day two, but a lot can change from here to that night. But where are you going to be? Like, who are you going to be with? Like, have you thought about that, or are you just trying to take it one day at a time?
Yeah, I'm gonna be around family, all my close family, be in Kansas City where I'm from, and um, just have a small draft party, and yeah, just be around the people I love, around the people that helped me get to this point, and it'll be a great night.
Absolutely. Real excited for you. Happy about all the results you're seeing because it sounds like it's well deserved from the work that you put in. But that was Jaylin Noel, um, wide receiver out of Iowa State, now getting ready for the draft. But Jaylin, really appreciate the time you gave us. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you for having me.
So,
Yeah, so that was the interview with Jaylin Noel. Awesome interview. Really appreciate him coming on the show to talk about his process up and leading up to the draft in his college days. It was some fun stories, but to kick off the second half of the show, I saw recently. So we want to talk a little more NFL draft. Here's a fun topic. So Travis Hunter says playing both sides in football, which he clearly did with Colorado, where he played cornerback and wide receiver, and it seemed like every week people were talking about how he played 120, 130 snaps every game, which is unbelievable to say. And now that I'm broadcasting it, it's even more impressive. But so he's looking to play both sides. I think when he gets to the NFL too, at least it's a conversation right now. We'll see if any franchise or coach allows him to do it. But he said it's more difficult than what Shohei Ohtani does in baseball. Um, Mike, you seem like you have the right answer because that was an instant reaction. But I want to hear what you got to say for the.
yeah, I think it's one. It's amazing to me how I know baseball's kind of fallen behind as arguably the third or fourth sport in America. But it's amazing to me how little these guys realize how impressive it is what baseball players can do. If you think about, and I'm not the biggest Otani fan, admittedly, I'm not. But the fact that this man can go out and hit for a high average, give you 40 plus home runs a season, give you the potential to give you 15 to 20 wins a season. I mean, the mental makeup, I mean, you were a pitcher, you could speak on it. The mental makeup of pitching a game and then also having to step in the box and hit, it'll like there's a reason why catchers don't hit for a high average. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now you can times that by God knows how much because this man has to step on the mound and then hit the next inning. It's not even close. I think what Hunter is very special, but what Ohtani does is out of this world. I mean, the it's just there's football. I'm going to say this, and it's my favorite sport, but there's much more mental aspects to the game of baseball than there are football. whereas that Travis Hunter simply doesn't have to worry about, and Ohtani does. So I just think baseball, I'm going to say it, is from a skill wise, is a tougher game than football. I don't think you can't. It's just silly that he even said that.
Yeah.
It shows how little he knows about the sport.
I have a fun story for you guys. So my freshman year, all through Little League, you play every position. Whatever you can do to get on the field, and wherever the coach has an opening, and then travel ball, you usually settle in on. You usually have your defensive position when you're not pitching, but for the most part, travel ball teams are usually like 12, 13 guys, so they want to try to have people on the field. But my freshman year, I remember I got to the plate during tryouts and I cracked the ball to center field, and I was like, oh my god, I hit that ball good, and the center fielder tracks it down, and I'm like, whatever, like fastball, outside corner. I hit it the opposite way. I showed that I can make good contact. I have some power, and I get back to dugout, and the coach goes, Macri, you're just gonna be pitching moving forward. It was like after I was like so high on like a hit I just had, and I never understood it, but I was never the type of kid who would like say, "Hey, why, coach?" Like I just kind of accepted I was going to be a pitcher moving forward, and when I think back to that, it worked out for me because whenever I was pitching, like the days I was pitching and that I still had to be in the lineup, I didn't want to think about that plate appearance. I think that I just like whatever got me back to the dugout quicker, I went with. So like that's like the mindset you had because as much as like pitching can be a physical thing, and we're seeing it with like all the injuries that are happening with Tommy John surgery. There's a lot of shoulder injuries too that we don't talk about. It's also a mental thing where like pitchers are freaks. Like you don't talk to pitchers when they're on the mound. They sit on the other side of the dugout away from the team. So
not you.
yeah, I saw the dog pop up. But I'm just saying, like from a physical and mental standpoint, it's almost impossible to do both, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
there's a reason we haven't seen it done since Babe Ruth in the early 1900s. He was a very good pitcher. He became an awesome hitter. I think the only argument people can have in this situation is can Ohtani do it at the same time? Because like yeah, the days that he pitches 6, 7 innings and he gives up 2 earned runs, and he's usually not in the lineup for those days. At least when he was on the Angels, that they didn't have him hitting. I don't think. But and then the next day he would probably DH, and then they would have him in the outfield like a few days later. So like he was doing both, and he was doing it very good. He was top 10 in both. The best hitter in the game, but also a top 10 pitcher when he was.
Whoa! Second best hitter in the game.
I don't know about Judge being best. You really think Aaron Judge is the best hitter in the game?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think that's not the argument we're having here, but yes, we could have that argument. But yeah, no, I think Judge is the best hitter in the game.
Can I also throw in that it's crazy that you take pitching away from him last year because he was nursing an injury,
and he still did what he did.
But it was 50 plus home runs and 50 plus stolen bases. So he said, "All right, you're not going to let me pitch. Let me become the first ever person to be a 50-50 player," which is just crazy to say. Like when he can just focus on hitting, he is just a freak.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder actually about the rehab that he did for it was Tommy John, right? It wasn't a UCL fix. It was Tommy John. So my question about that is like, let's take an example. I'm going to use Yankees as an example. Jason Dominguez had the surgery, and he was out for 13 months. So like, I want to know what was Ohtani's rehab process that allowed him to still play. Granted, he wasn't throwing a ball, but still the bat movement, running, sliding, putting your arm. Like there's a lot of wear and tear there while you're rehabbing. I want to know what Ohtani did that these other guys simply can't do or did not do. Because it's an interesting thing. like, and position players having Tommy John is getting more common, but it wasn't. But does that mean a guy like Dominguez probably could have played last year and just simply didn't? It's very interesting to me. If anything, it proves the talent that Ohtani is, that he was able to rehab as quick while he was doing something that is still a high stress, high strain position type to be in. It's pretty
Also,
crazy.
another point I want to throw out there. So the Dodgers have fuck you money, and with the amount of money that they've deferred to the future, it's
Do
just
they?
getting,
Is it that, or do they have the "we hope this pays for itself" money?
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's the money where the owner says once we become bad again, I'm just going to sell the team and someone else can worry about this. But
Yeah.
um, I mean the
Mikhail Prokhorov method, very successful.
yeah,
Mm.
a lot of these owners are older too, so that like even if it comes back to bite them, they don't have to worry about it for much longer. Like it could just be a family issue, you know.
That's
I'm
like
just amazed at anybody that can hit the ball with a bat.
I mean, it's
Part for
tough.
my brain would never clicked. So anybody that could do that,
That's one of the hardest things
regardless of pitching.
is hitting a 90-mile-per-hour fastball.
I mean, you literally have virtually no time to make a decision, and these guys are like. Let's take a guy like Juan Soto, for example, who walks as much as he does. It's absolutely insane. Insane.
If Ohtani came along in like 1996, how much of a bigger deal would he be?
well that
He'd be a physically bigger guy because he'd be on the best cycles.
well that
Of
would
course.
be that would take America by storm because Japanese players weren't really coming over during that time. I think
His parlays would all be on paper.
yeah.
Well, if you think about it, the closest thing you can compare that to would have been like when Ichiro came over. And I don't know if you remember, like that's when I really started to love baseball. Was 2001 with that Seattle. I grew up a Yankee fan, love the Yankees. They're my favorite team. But that like I was so encapsulated by the fact that this man came over from another country and instantly was the best hitter in baseball. Like I think that the Ohtani hype would have been that times 10.
Yeah,
And the
he had
Ichiro hype
200
was insane.
hits right off the bat, right?
Ichiro had, I think he won, if I remember correctly, I'd have to double check it, but that 2001, I'm pretty sure he was in the running for MVP.
He definitely was.
And he had 200, it was more than 200 hits, actually. And he had like a 340 something average. Like he had done something that had never been done, you know, like a guy to take a jump. And at the time, Japanese baseball wasn't viewed like it is today, where it's, you know, the Japanese leagues weren't treated where they were treated as lesser than the MLB. Now they're treated as an equal to the MLB. So it was insane. Like I imagine it would have been like that times 10. Like I remember, like I was an East Coast kid and I was in love with the Seattle Mariners and Ichiro Suzuki. Like it would have been amazing.
Think about this. His first 10 seasons, he had 200 plus hits. In 2004, he had 262 hits. His first season in the league, which was what Mike was just talking about,
Yeah.
252 hits, and he was actually the MVP and the Rookie of the Year and Gold Glove.
There you go.
So, I mean, Ichiro was another one of those Japanese players that just was a freak. You know, like you still see
I
the
still
video.
have his rookie card.
That's a cool one. Maybe
Too
Mike.
bad the market crashed, but I have his rookie card.
Well, the market for current players in the NBA and NFL is actually pretty good. Mike can attest to that.
Oh yeah, the current NFL market for cards is amazing right now. I mean that's what I flip and sell. I enjoy the process. Flip and collect, I should say. Yeah.
Junior rookie card.
What would a 1993 Andre Rison fetch me?
A 1993 Andre Rison. Well, first of all, you probably could use it as toilet paper at this point.
But do you have?
He was more productive than that's insulting.
Vintage football is like vintage.
He probably used it as toilet paper.
I would.
If you saw what he did with his money.
Vintage football is tough. Vintage baseball is hot. That's kind of how it goes.
But not that Griffey card that they overproduced.
No, everybody's got the Griffey rookie, but like in baseball, like the true vintage, like they're called T206s. They're like from the 1900s, 1911, 19 all those times. Those cards, you could have one ripped in half, and it's still worth like $150.
That's wild.
Yeah, because they were worthless at first, so people didn't take care of them.
Most of them were just on cigarette boxes.
Same with all my Pokemon cards.
Too, right?
Threw them all out.
Well, our era and our parents' era was the bubblegum era. They call it the junk wax era, actually, where they just mass produced a bunch of stuff and they, watered down the values. So
you can still eat that bubble gum though. Apparently, it's like so good.
I would.
It's chalky and it's hard.
I wouldn't. Yeah, Dugan would know.
I tried recently. It was an experiment.
It was when he.
I remember opening some old packs and trying it. It does not hold up.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would.
Joe's dinner.
And then he washes it down with a margarita.
Yeah, his parents.
Store-bought margarita mix.
Oh man.
Have some good old 40-year-old Nicorette.
Oh Lord.
So, what's the drink of choice tonight? Anything?
Just margarita. That's it.
Another margarita.
Costco margaritas.
Is there a saying a margarita?
The Andre Rison of drinks. It's not flashy, but it gets the job done.
How often are you having these margaritas? Are you only having...
Actually, Andre Rison was very flashy.
He was flashy.
Just like Russell Westbrook.
Russ. Mike, you want to talk about arguments on this podcast? So I told Mike about the argument we had about Jalen Hurts. I forgot about the Russ Westbrook argument.
That's just a ridiculous statement by you.
Dugan believes that Russ Westbrook is flashy.
He was
flashy
at
one point.
Oklahoma City.
I don't think he falls under the flashy category.
I mean, when he was with Oklahoma City, he was pretty flashy. I mean, he's not flashy now. Now he's just old.
Flashy, though?
He was basically Derrick Rose, but angrier. That's the only way I can describe it.
He'd take off from like the free throw line and throw it down really hard for no reason while his team was getting pummeled. It was like the year they won the MVP. He won the MVP. It was incredible.
Or when he'd do like no look assist, but he'd do like a pose for no reason.
You remember the best part about Russell Westbrook during those days is he could not shoot at all. Do you remember that? It was just drives. He could not shoot.
And now
he thought he could shoot.
Now on the Nuggets he can. I don't know where that came from.
I think as guys get older, they just become their athleticism. I'm sure Russ Westbrook's probably pretty athletic still, but he's definitely not what he was. And I think guys, they kind of settle in and they realize that they can't play that violent style of game anymore. It's just what happens.
Yeah. Bodies start to go on us. For the sake of Mike not getting a slap in the back of the head, let's move on to the next topic. I want to talk some NFL. I want to talk about Joe and my old-time friend, Saquon Barkley, just got a groundbreaking contract for running backs. Now, last season when he went to the Eagles, we were talking about, can you even pay running backs $12 million a year? Now, all of a sudden, he's getting $20+ million for 2 seasons. And we saw the Eagles, and they got rid of Darius Slay. They got rid of Bradbury. It looks like they were trying to get some cash so they could do this deal. I thought it was going to be for Myles Garrett, honestly. I don't know if they're still trying to have a trick up their sleeve and get Garrett. I know it's going to be a race between the Commanders and the Eagles, with the Browns screaming that they don't want to get rid of him, but we know how that goes when a player sits out eventually or makes a big stink. But let's talk Barkley. Do you think a running back deserves $20 million a season?
With his injury history, that's still risky. 2,000 yards or not, I don't know. If it was like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's had like a clean – I mean, Saquon had a better season than Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just talking about like a guy who's sort of had like a clean – any running back with the injury history is just scary. You're just waiting – Derrick Henry, when we thought he would fall off, it was only because of the way he played in old age. I mean, Saquon, you forget. He missed basically his entire second season, and he was – sort of on like the Andrew Luck schedule of 3 games here, miss a month, 2 games there, miss the rest of the year. That's why his numbers kind of sucked with us besides the O-line. It's if he plays 80% as well as he did this year, it's worth it. But
I think he's worth every penny that he got, and I'm happy to see a team appreciate him the way they should.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, it's wild. The truth is they're just rewarding him for what he did this year. And obviously it's easy to reward somebody after you've won a Super Bowl. So even if this contract that they gave him, the 2 years at $20 million, is a disaster, the people of Philadelphia are still going to be like, but we got a Super Bowl out of it. So I don't think this is going to be the new norm. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, James Cook's going to get paid next. He's not getting that. He's not. This was because he was a fan favorite. He had an outstanding season, and they won a Super Bowl. So I don't think this is the new norm. I think this is completely an outlier.
I think also, you reward good people. He had one of the best running back seasons of all time, so let's just call it that. And also during the playoffs, he was super dominant. I know the Chiefs held them to what 50-something yards running in the Super Bowl, but that's
They
because
couldn't hold Hurts though.
yeah, they put their whole defense around stopping Barkley that they couldn't stop anything else. But um, Nick Sirianni was on. I mentioned part of my take a lot just because I listen to that podcast every single week. But he was on that podcast and he was like, outside of he said he believes that Saquon Barkley is a better person than he is a football player, which is saying a lot. And he was a great locker room guy, and he's a fantastic leader. And it just the story felt too good to be true, almost like this guy goes home. He played college at Penn State. He's a Pennsylvania guy, and
His dad's a diehard Jets fan.
yeah, you do have that going for you. And he did
It's all about you.
He did commit to Rutgers at one point. So
Yeah, you know what? We have the best could have been team ever in the history of football.
are we talking Jets or the Rutgers?
No, Rutgers. The amount of commits they have early on in the process when they offer him as freshmen, and then like 6 months later end up recruiting and committing elsewhere. We have the best could have been team ever.
That's because New Jersey sports is so good, football and basketball. So,
Yep.
So Rutgers is kind of taking these guys early because they're noticing them early, and then other people start to come on and they're better programs and they offer a lot more, and
Yep.
it's over after that. Let's move on. So DK Metcalf is requesting a trade from the Seahawks. Jackson, what Nick
Najigba.
Watch it.
Jackson. Let's say
Careful.
JSN. Jackson Najigba.
Jackson Smith Njigba.
Yeah.
JSN.
He was unhappy about it. He went to social media. And then Tyler Lockett was released, I believe, and it looks like he still wants to play. What's your thoughts about like what's happening with that Seahawks team? And does it even matter? Like, do you see them as a team that can compete in that West?
I don't. I don't think that I think their time is probably come and gone, and I think it's time for a hard reset. I'll be honest. I'm not even. I'm not even upset with what I wouldn't be as a fan because they didn't even use DK correctly. They didn't treat him as a number one. I'm pretty sure he lined up the most out of any receiver in the NFL outside. They did nothing to move him around the formation and get the ball in his hands and actually use him as a lot of what he does. Like I kind of look at him like a Deebo Samuel. He's much bigger, much faster, much stronger than Deebo Samuel. But could you imagine that style of drum up plays for him in the backfield, downfield, short passes? And they literally just left him outside like a decoy all season. And unfortunately, I'm a big fan of JSN. He's going to suffer from this now because I don't know if he's ready to be a number one. He benefited a lot from the fact that he got to move around the formation and DK just stood outside. But I think the Seahawks are probably done. I think this is probably the best thing for DK's career. He's going to get paid by whoever trades for him. And he's going to get a shot at being a true number one where somebody builds an offense around him. I think JSN will probably be the next one. And, not this year, probably next year where he'll start making some noise about getting out. But you never know with the Ohio State guys. They're true professionals, and he might try and stick it out. But that's
Is he still in his prime? I feel like he's
DK?
been in the league a while.
DK's young. He got drafted really young. If I remember
It was like
correctly,
2018, right?
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, I'm going to check right now, but I'm pretty sure DK got drafted at 20 years old.
Yeah, he was pretty young.
I'm looking right now.
It was also shocking.
Yeah, DK's only 27 years old. He got drafted in 2018. So he had to have been the youngest pick that year.
A lot of people didn't think he should have went that high. I remember the video of Mina Kimes, actually, because she's known to be a big Seattle fan. She was pumped to get DK. And it turned out to be a right call because he's been a pretty good player. And I agree with Mike. I don't think the Seahawks know how to use him. It's tough, though, with all the talent that they have on offense. And now they're not going to have any talent. But the other hard part is you have Geno Smith as your quarterback. And for what it's worth, he's looked good for parts of seasons. But by no means do I believe he's a franchise quarterback or the future. And the Seahawks should start really looking for their next guy. Mike, I know you're going to love this topic. I'll talk about it for you just to make you a little happy. So the Bears, I thought this was the biggest moves of the week, actually. it shows that the Bears are trending in the right direction, in my opinion. They trade with the LA Rams for Jonah Jackson. He's a former Pro Bowler, and they only gave up a 6th-round pick. But then today, which I didn't know the Chiefs were done with him, but I guess his Super Bowl performance was enough. So they trade the Chiefs trade Joe Thuney to the Bears. So you just pretty much revamped that offensive line, and that was the big thing. So coaching was the biggest part. That was part A, and that they replaced their coach. But the second part was the protection because Caleb Williams was running for his life all last season. So now you're kind of putting a spotlight, a focus on that offensive line. This is huge. This is big time for the Bears. I mean, they're still in a division that is just incredibly hard. But I'll let you go first, Mike, because you're very passionate about Caleb Williams.
Well, so I like him. I think he's good. I stand by that. But I mean, what they did today, and for Joe Thuney, they gave up a 4th round. I think it was a 4th-round pick, a straight. And my guess is he's probably not going to play tackle. I don't know. So you got essentially a Pro Bowl guard for a 4th-round pick. I mean, they're building that team in Ben Johnson's image the way he wants it. I think Caleb Williams, obviously, the biggest thing for Caleb Williams is get him some time back there. He's got the receivers to get it done right now. DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. I'm not big on Roma Dunze, but I think that he's going to be a decent number 2 in the NFL. And then you do have running backs there. I think this team is set up for Caleb to take a huge jump in year 2. And I hope he does because I'm a fan of his play style. I'm a fan of him. I think that a lot of times people, as me and Steve have discussed, have dislike for him for invalid reasons. But that's okay. I think Ben Johnson's building this team in his image, and I think he sees what he has in Caleb Williams. He knows if he gets some time and protections, the kid's special. So I'm excited to see it. I really think that he can take a big step forward, and it'd be really cool to have him and Jaden Daniels go back and forth year in and year out, and we could have an argument of who's the best. I think that would be super cool. So I'm hoping that's what happens, and I think that's what's going to happen.
It's almost like a Carmelo Anthony versus LeBron James type situation.
Yep.
Where they were going back and forth for a while. So that'd be great for the NFL. And to give Pat Mahomes competition every year, because for a while it was just his show and nobody could even come within 50 yards.
Especially not Lamar.
We're gonna go there, aren't we?
Oh Lord, I actually have a question though about the Chiefs right now. They just traded Joe Thuney. What are they doing to help Patrick Mahomes?
I think they're going to try to revamp their offensive line.
Yeah, but you trade a guy he's a very good guard. He's an outstanding guard. You were playing him out of position, didn't play great. I understand that, but you just traded him away, and Patrick Mahomes has an awful offensive line as it is, and you've just made it worse.
It's the Andy Reid magic. I think they trust his player evaluation. It's gonna. It opens up the cap space, which is huge because Monday actually starts the tampering period, which that's going to be a big topic of our show next week is who's signing with who. But, I think the Chiefs are going to do what they usually do. The Chiefs have never really brought in superstar players. They've been big on drafting guys, and they've been big on bringing in guys that either have had a tough stretch, like veterans that need, to get some life pumped into them, or they've taken young guys that maybe people weren't high on. People weren't high on Pat Mahomes. They said he had a rocket arm when he came into the league, but not everyone thought he was a first-round talent. And the Chiefs picked him. They sat him behind Alex Smith for a season, and next thing you know, he's one of the best quarterbacks we've seen. So,
also, people that year, if you remember how, I'd have to look back on it, but people were talking about how big a reach that was for the Chiefs that year.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I know the Jets were in on
John Gruden didn't.
Well, John Gruden knows everything.
He called it.
He just doesn't know how to clear his emails.
Joe, I'll bring you in here.
I think the Seahawks, they were pretty good. They were better than we expected. and they sort of peaked with a 20-point loss in the wild card round. I think we forget how surprising it was when Geno Smith did what he did, starting a couple seasons ago. Even that first one against against Seattle. Sorry, I just want to talk about the Seahawks. I didn't get a chance to.
He's distracted by the dog, I think.
Sorry, no, yeah, it was against Denver because that was Russell Wilson's first game against Seattle.
Joe,
You never asked me about the Seahawks. I just want to talk about Seattle.
Actually, I have a question. Who was it that Geno Smith beat out that year? It was Drew Lock, right?
Yes, I believe
that's
so.
right. Yeah.
So Shadur Sanders, a lot of people are labeling him as cocky Mike, I think, after his combine interviews.
Arrogant.
Arrogant. There we go. And we know he's confident. I know there's a video from last season when he runs out to the big rival game against Nebraska, and he's saying before the coin flip that I forget the exact wording that he says, but he's saying that they're pretty much going to destroy Nebraska, and he's laughing in their face, and then they end up losing to Nebraska. But is that what's best case scenario for the Giants quarterback situation in your opinion? Would you want a Shadur Sanders type, or do you think they should trade up, get Cam Ward, maybe bring in an Aaron Rodgers to couple with a rookie quarterback? Like, what's your thoughts on that situation?
I want to know what happened to Dylan Raiola. He was a thing for a few weeks there.
He's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
They actually know each other.
He's Patrick Mahomes without the talent.
Yeah. But talent's only 20% of it. Swagger's the other 80%.
Yeah, well, apparently the numbers are skewed because he's got way more swagger than 80% and way less talent than 20%.
You really think he has swagger?
No, he's a carbon copy of Patrick Mahomes.
It's so cringe what he does.
He's
now.
He's Patrick Mahomes off of Temu.
Have you ordered off of Temu?
I've not, actually.
Where do you order your clothes?
I go to the store like a human.
Joe gets his
a human from the fucking 80s.
Where do you buy your clothes, Dugan?
He gets it from Temu.
Like, yes. All right, hold on. You're getting all right. You dress professional for work. I dress professional for. Well, all of us do, I'm sure. When you're going to buy, you need dress shirts. Do you not go to the store in person and buy them?
In 2015, I did, but I know my measurements.
You definitely buy Land's End. I already know you're a Land's End guy.
I'm a Charles Tyrwhitt. I dress like a refined gentleman.
Are you a suit and tie to work?
No, like I said, it's not the 80s anymore. No one wears suits. I'm telling you, like it's not what you see in the movies. There's no Gordon Geckos with, suspenders anymore.
So then what's your work attire? What is your attire for work?
What month of the year?
Tomorrow.
Is it before or after Easter?
What are you wearing tomorrow to work?
Charles Tyrwhitt.
I don't even know what that is.
Now I go cheap on the pants. Like,
I do too.
I'll do some Van Heusen pants.
Oh, I go cheaper than that. I go to Costco. I go to Costco or Sam's Club, and I get the Denali pants for $14 a pair.
Van Heusen's not even around anymore.
It's on Kohl's.com, baby. You can get
Kohl's.com.
Who shops from Kohl's?
I don't know, but Dugan's obviously got a much bigger budget. He goes cheap, and Van Heusen's still $40 a pants. I'm buying $14 Denali pants, but I go to Men's Warehouse or Jose Bank to get fitted for my shirts.
And those shoes that we wore to Matt's wedding, I actually really like them, so I bought another pair of those because they were like $60.
Well, you should have saw what Joe did with his first job. He used to get like a percentage off like dress clothes. So
at Charles Tyrwhitt.
You went like crazy. Like your whole closet was pretty much that, right?
You became Charles Tyrwhitt.
It still is.
I'm gonna look up how much a Charles Tyrwhitt shirt is, and we're gonna decide how much Dugan makes a year based on
$15. Imagine button up.
It's normally 110, but you can get 3 for 200. I think
that's not terrible. Pretty good.
I'm looking here.
And then I used to wear those Finance Bro vests, but I feel like a person my age shouldn't, but I still do.
So it's $64.72 if you buy two. So $64.75. I can't even knock that because I go to Jose Bank and it runs me 2 for $100. So I can't even.
Hoity-toity.
I can't even make fun of you. Then we got Macri over here who dresses from Kohl's.
There's nothing wrong with this.
No Coles.
This will not.
Coles in my-
Whatever the AI tags at this section is going to be like Cole slander.
I refuse.
It shouldn't be
Coles.
that.
What is your? Where do you do your shopping, Steven?
Bradley's.
I like J. Crew. What's the one with the whale on it? I like them.
Vineyard Vines. I'm a fan as well.
I like Vineyard Vines.
I like it. Yeah, I'm a Men's Warehouse, Jose Bank, Vineyard Vines. I got a lot of Vineyard Vines stuff. Do you wear Prada shoes?
I wear ShopRite brand clothing. Leave me alone.
A&P.
And he still puts the apron on every now and again.
I didn't wear an apron.
He was in the bakery.
That was Manhattan Bagel.
Oh my God, those were the days for him. So you were so miserable at Manhattan Bagel.
Where was Manhattan Bagel?
Red Bank.
Some 20-year-old shit. Well, I was actually 20, so I guess I can't really talk down on his age. But he used to come in and poop on the floor.
Hold on a minute. That just reminded me of something.
Yeah. No, I know what you're
Is
good.
that a burger?
The McDonald's story.
And you know what? Minimum wage was like $8 back then, and somehow I made $7.15. And they never addressed it.
Dude, you said shit on the floor, and I instantly thought to you remember the McDonald's thing?
That was Burger King.
Burger.
He wouldn't do that in a McDonald's.
Yeah, dude, it was a McDonald's. It's because Denzel worked there.
Oh my
Oh shit. Okay.
Oh
Why'd you do that?
God.
You shouldn't do
We're
that
not going
to
to name who it
Denzel.
was, but somebody shit in a urinal thinking that somebody else would have to, somebody we knew would have to clean it, and it didn't go
Anyone
out.
who's listened to more than 2 episodes could probably guess.
Yeah, they heard his name before.
God, but he's married now. I don't think his wife wants to hear about him
No.
doing this stuff.
These people didn't have the decency to shit near a pipe. It was in the corner.
It wasn't even an attack. It was just being a straight up asshole.
Wait, did you have to clean it up?
Yeah, some days.
So what was the approach? Like a shovel, or was it like a poop bag?
Well, you had to put gloves on first off.
Safety.
Yeah.
Oh God! And then did we just put it in a garbage bag and throw it away, or did we
Yeah, pretty much. Just put
hazmat
gloves on
it.
and shovel it in. Hope that it has some good consistency so you can grasp it in your hand.
Joe, you were definitely cursing under your breath the entire time.
I was trying not to breathe. And I swear to God, some of those kids would make eye contact with me before they did it. Let's make sure this guy's working first.
That was before face masks were allowed.
Yo! Oh my
Should've
God!
been.
All right, what would you do today, right now? Tomorrow you go to work, someone shits the office, dude, you can come clean it up.
You're like, I'm making more than $7.15 an hour. Fair enough.
Bare hand. You got
Those
a
ferry
bare
tickets
hand.
have to pay for themselves.
Ugh.
I mean, if I don't have any cuts in my hand, why not?
Why would you have cuts on your hand?
Well, I don't know. You don't want to get infected.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's how you get dysentery. This is the Oregon Trail, baby.
are you sandpapering it?
What do you mean sandpapering it?
So there's no
Maybe-
lotion?
I'm trying to get my words per minute up, and I'm just typing up a storm.
How are you getting cuts?
I don't know. You don't get cuts on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, he ain't wrong. My skin cracks when it's cold, so on my hands. So that's a good way. But I can't believe that you had to clean somebody else's shit.
I mean, this wasn't a daily occurrence. Wasn't.
Are we
If I had to
talking
put on my resume, it wouldn't be the top line of
What was
my
the-
number one
what
responsibility.
was
It would be on his resume.
what was the frequency of this?
It came in waves. It's probably if I had an attitude one day and someone just had it out for me.
That's almost
I wouldn't be surprised. I was
every
brash.
day you have an attitude.
I was brash. This dickhead won't make my
Yeah,
bagel.
more
crack.
so.
Well,
I don't think I warrant someone taking a poop, on the floor kind of brash. But
Oh,
I
Lord.
got one more topic for you guys.
John Stewart used to come in there. It probably wasn't him, but
I was-
just
Could you imagine? Stewart saw dude who was like, I'm shitting on the floor right now.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
All right, to get to read.
maybe that's why you shouldn't talk politics.
All right, what's the topic? Let's hear it.
Debo Samuel trade thoughts. We have to hit it.
I I like it. I mean, you just got Jaden Daniels, another weapon. I mean, that receiving group is going to be really good. Terry McLaurin, him, missing somebody here. But anyway, yeah, and Zach Ertz, if you get him back, which I think it sounds like he's coming back. I mean, you just added another weapon. I love it. And they gave up. I know they're eating a lot of money to get him. Well, not even, actually. From what I understand, the 49ers are still retaining the $31 million dead cap hit. So I think this was a win-win. Not a win-win. A major win for the Commanders to get this done. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It almost
Who's their number 2 before that? Zacchaeus?
It was Zacchaeus.
Dotson?
It was Zacchaeus. He had 600 receiving yards this year. So you're still having him. You're going to be able to play Debo out of the slot, out of the backfield. It does make me wonder what's going to happen with Austin Eckler. Do you still keep him? Probably. Yeah. But you also have Chris Rodriguez ready to go behind him. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Also, so Dotson was the second receiver you were saying?
He was probably third. I feel like he came on towards
the
the end
end
of the year.
was number 2.
Zacchaeus was consistently number 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you can push him back and put him in like an Eagles Dotson role, Jahan Dotson type player. Now this is huge because like you think about the creativity that Daniels brings to an offense, and you almost times that by 2 with a Deebo Samuel who can line up at any receiver position plus the running back position. So
There's actually Noah Brown was their third receiver.
yeah, that
I feel most of those yards came on one pass. Basically.
Joe, I have a task for you to close out the show. Give us a NFL history fact, and you need to do it in your voice.
I'm not a damn no.
The schmooze voice. Come on, let's go.
Well, we can do better than this.
Right?
I don't think we can.
We should have ended on the Manhattan Bagel talk.
Yeah. All right.
I think that was a good energy to close out on.
Manhattan Bagel. I tried to do the New York accent where they say everything.
I think that if anybody from Joseph M. Dugan's work is listening to this podcast, I would be super, super indebted to you if you shit on the floor. Just for shits and giggles.
I know I said like the dress code in modern finance is a little more lax. I didn't mean laxative.
those finance guys.
Oh man,
they party hard.
I feel like there's. Yeah, I was about to say if they have one bad night, too much coke, too much whiskey, they might get the shits that come in the next day.
Like I said, it's not like that anymore.
Joe,
no, it's not like that for you because you're old. But there's got to be younger ones there that are still, snorting coke and
Not to get graphic, but Joe did shower in a work bathroom out of the sink one time.
Yeah. That was like a homeless sponge bath I gave myself.
Is that even a shower at that point? Did you even feel clean?
No, it was a freshening up, and I did not feel fresh. No.
Oh
I
Lord!
wouldn't be able to work like that. But,
yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm like a 2 a day shower. Well, sometimes 3 times. I shower before work. Sometimes I shower when I get home from work, and then I shower before I go to bed. So
he's about to shower right after this podcast.
You're probably right.
Yeah. So let's not.
I feel dirty after all this poop talk.
Yeah, I feel dirty after hanging out with Joe. But
this was 10% more poop than usual on the show. We far exceeded the quota.
We're still children. That's what it comes down to.
Speaking of Lamar Jackson,
let's close it out. So
he poopied himself and ran to the locker room.
So did Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce did
he
too.
Did. But he's a champion.
The champ is here. But that's an episode 33 there. I always forget to do this, but we're on social media. We now have a YouTube page as well. If you look up under further review on YouTube, we should pop up. Our Instagram is under further review pod. A long name. I might have to change that eventually. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you to Jaylin Noel for coming on. He's got a fan of me. I know he's got a fan in you guys too. We'll be watching and seeing where he gets picked in this NFL draft. And hopefully the fun continues. Hopefully we can get some more cool guests and keep the topics flowing. But That's an episode. We'll see you next week.
Before dog size update, so everyone sees, we're going to see the growth.
Oh, yeah, as the podcast goes on.
There you go.
Yeah.
What a unit.
Peace.
Later, guys.